Hello people, welcome back to my series on building a minimal time card application. In this episode we're going to build the last pieces, including a help functionality and error checking. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Let's go ahead and build our help command. So what we'll do is if someone asks for help, we're going to have a help function that displays a simple help message. So let's go ahead and create that function called help. And we'll create a help message. And we'll use the backtick marks to have a multi-line string. And we'll just give the user a list of commands. And our commands will be in, which will be check into a project, out, which will be check out of a project, and hours, which will be list total hours worked on project. Oops, and there we go. And then the only other thing that we will probably want to do here is line these up. And then we'll want to show our help message. So let's go ahead and test this and see if it works. So we'll go build Timecard, and we'll run our Timecard and ask for help. And it looks like we've got a little bit too much space here. So there we go. Whoops. So let's do a go build Timecard. And we'll ask for help. And there we go. So now we have our help functionality built in. The next thing that we probably want to do is have our project files all go to the same spot. Now, probably what you'll want to do is create a special directory for this. For this project or for this demonstration, I'm just going to send the files to the bin folder of my path. So let's go ahead and show where that is. Let's go to our Go path and go to the bin directory. So basically I have this path, so it's my Go path, and it's the bin directory, and it's where all the directories are. So, or actually where all the executables are. So let's I did some testing before this. So let's go ahead and remove my project, and what we're going to want to do is just dump all of our files here that are all of our Timecard files. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's create something called path, and it will be a string, and we'll use os get environment of our Go path, and we'll add bin onto the end of that. And let's go ahead and use this path. So let's do, when we create a project, let's actually have a path in there for our project name. And then for our check-in, let's do the same thing. And check out, let's do the same thing, path. So now we check in and out of our path, and we can test this. Go build timecard, timecard.go, and we can run timecard have my project in, and then it should have created my project here. That's good. Then we'll do out, and if we do cat my project, we see that we've checked in and checked out of our project, so that's good. So let's take this further. Let's do our error checking. We want to prevent someone from checking in twice or checking out twice. Now, if you look at the check-in and check-out code, you see that we have identical code here, and normally you don't want to do that. You don't want to duplicate effort. But what I did that is I actually put that here I duplicated that code in order to make room or create a placeholder for our error checking code. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll create a function to deduplicate the effort that we're doing. So we'll create a function called add timestamp, and we'll give it our project name, and what we'll do is copy this code here and just paste it there. So now we've deduplicated our effort, and we can go ahead and start building our error checking functionality. Now, the way that our files work, our timecard files, is we store these timestamps. And we know that if there's an even or an odd number of lines in our file that we've checked into our project, and we know that if there's an even number of lines that we are checked out of our project, because there must be, for every check-in, there must be a checkout. So if there's matching check-in and checkouts, then we know that we're checked out of our project. So let's go ahead and create a function that will allow us to check the number of lines or the number of entries in our file. So let's do num entries of a project name, and we'll return an integer. And what we'll do is we'll look at the contents of our file. Actually, it actually returns an error, and we'll do iou read file. We'll give it path project name, and then what we'll do is we'll split the contents into lines, and we'll split on new line. And then what we'll do is it's possible that we could have empty lines in our code, so what we'll do is we'll create something called we'll create real lines or something like that. Real lines, and that will just be actually a variable, and it'll be a slice of strings. And what we'll do is for each line in our lines, we will append the line on there if the line does not equal an empty line. Whoops. There we go. So if we don't have an empty line, then we will append that line to our real lines. And then what we can do at the very end is return the length of our real lines. Now what we can do is, now that we have all the functionality in place where we can actually build our error checking functionality. So what we'll do is we'll get our entries, which will be num entries, or actually, let's see, what should we do? create a num and then num entries of our project name if num mod 2 equals 1, which means if it's odd, we know that we've already checked in. So we're going to give an error message to the user saying you have already checked into your project name. And we'll return. And then what we'll do is, actually what we should do is we should check if the num entries, what happens if we try to check out of a project that doesn't exist yet. We need to check for non-existence, and what we'll do is if the lines, let's see, so what happens if we have an error? We need to check for error. So if error does not equal nil, we know that we couldn't read the file, so we're going to return a -1 on our number of entries. And that means that up here, what we should do is we should actually check if the number equals -1. If it does, then we need to tell the user that we have an error. So error project name actually if it's check-in, we don't want to do that, only for checkout. So there we go. If we want, let's see, then we add a timestamp to our project name. Then for checkout, we do something similar, where we have a number, which is the num entries of our project name. Then we want to check if num equals -1. If it does, then we're trying to check out of a project that does not exist. So we can say error project name does not exist. And we'll return else if num mod 2 equals 0, then we know we've already checked out, and we can say you have already checked out of project name. We'll return there. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll add a timestamp to our project name. There we go. So that should take care of error checking. Let's see if we can test this. So let's do go build Timecard, and we'll have my project check in. Should be able to check out. What if we try to check out again? You have already checked out of the project. Let's check in and check in again. You have already checked into my project. So that's good. And then we should be able to have hours. Whoops. Hours. Okay. And then we can also say help. Actually, we can't have a project name, so if we do help, it gives us our list of help. And here, if we do cat my project, we have a list of times where we checked in and checked out, so that seems to be working. Now what happens if we try to check out of a project that doesn't exist? Say we have junk, try to check out, then we get an error that says junk does not exist. So that's pretty good. The only other thing that we probably want to do is use go funct to format our Go code to the proper standards. So we'll do timecard go, and what this will do is it puts all of our imports in order and then make sure that everything else has proper spacing and everything else, all the proper formatting that we want. So we've created our help. We have we put all of our files in a certain place, and we've checked for errors, and that seems to be a good minimal project. The only thing that we want to do now is probably deploy it. So if we do go install, then it actually installs the program. You can see that Timecard now exists in our bin directory, and that means we can go anywhere that we want in our computer. So if I go to my home directory, I can type in Timecard and my project in, and it will check me in. So I can be anywhere on my computer and call my Timecard application, and I can check in, check out, and check the hours of my project. Now it's saying that hours here is 0, and that doesn't seem to be right, so maybe we should check in on that and see if it's actually counting the time correctly for all of our systems. So we'll type in out here. We'll wait a few more seconds to make sure that we have a reasonable period of time to have passed. We'll check out, and then we'll check hours, and it still says 0. So let's go and let's list the time. Oh, that would be a problem. We have to have a path of reading the file. So we need to read the file from the proper path. So now if we do go install, we can do timecard my project. Whoops. Timecard my project hours, and it gives us the proper number of hours. So now it seems that our application is working, and it's reading and writing from the right path and files, and that essentially is the end of writing our minimal timecard application. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time.